Manchester City back to winning ways. Many expected them to do so, Janusz Michallik. They won 2-0 at Leicester, but how did they play today?
I think we saw more of the same, right? I mean, they've had an issue in sustaining leads and building onto it, and that game never felt secure, did it? For even away at Leicester, but I think at this stage of the season, especially the festive season, I don't know if we necessarily need to speak about the quality of play. Obviously, it's still missing. This is not Manchester City that we've seen before, but it just makes you wonder if this finally is going to be the catalyst for them to go on some sort of a winning streak. I don't expect them to run the table right now, but I think if they were to look at the next three games, which are not terrible, then they're going to have definitely decisions to make, because I just looked at their schedule and it's incredible after they're down with Brentford and Ipswich.
Should we look at this game and look at it as what turns into a pretty comfortable win as far as the scoreline is concerned for Man City? Or do you look at it the other way and go, hey, they still gave up chances? And this is a Leicester side that struggled this season. Ruud van Nistelrooy did all right when he came in, but he's lost 3 games since. But they hit the post and they had other chances. I thought they were all right in possession, Leicester. And I just expected a wee bit more from City after Savinho scored the opening goal.
Yeah, well, the problems, you and I have mentioned them in terms of Manchester City. I mean, nothing's changed. They do have the possession, but it's a static possession. It's no longer the same that we've seen where you change the point of attack very, very quickly. It's 1-2 touch football, right? They'll still push teams back, but it's just the quality, the speed of play isn't necessarily there. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. For example, in the wide areas, when you have Phil Foden and we have Silvinho, when they can play those in-swinging crosses, why they don't do it, right? I mean, Haaland's waiting. I mean, they scored a goal and wasn't an in-swinger. But if I watch, for example, Mo Salah, if I watch Bukayo Saka just coming on their favorite foot and looking for the target man near or far post, I was specifically looking for that. And I hardly saw it, if ever, today, unless I missed a ball like that. So I just don't know why they've gone away from that. It seems very, very simple to me. But if you look at the details, Mark, today, you could see that they were nowhere near Manchester City. The simple passes played a little bit in front, a little bit behind, lacking sharpness. How many times the ball has gone underfoot of players and went out for a throw? And Phil Foden, I think, happened to him twice. So nowhere near their best.
Jakub Stolarczyk, the Polish goalkeeper, should have done better for Foden's strike, shouldn't he?
He should have. I mean, I watched that over and over, and that strike was obviously from distance. And if you notice, he was already going down before that ball was anywhere near him, and that was the reason why he parried that. Not far enough, I guess. I mean, if he stood there a little bit longer, that would have been an easy save. So yeah, big mistake for him, no doubt.
So they got the goal, and it's a big one for Savinho because he's never hid. Whenever he's got the opportunity, he's always tried to do something and create. Now he's got his goal, and you and I saw last season with Girona. He's a quality player. So, look, the City of old would have gone on and won this 2-3, 4-0. But right now, was this more important just to get the 3 points rather than something that might come when they're back to winning ways? Because Pep Guardiola said it will happen, and of course it will. But was today just about finding a way, even although they're Man City, even although we expect them, having taken the lead, to maybe get 2, 3, and 4? But that's not what we've seen recently, as we've seen at the Etihad. So after they opened the scoring, what did you make of the way they played and the way Leicester came back into the game?
Yeah, I mean, just like in the last game, they let teams back in the game. They don't have that killer instinct. And, they're waiting for that. Look, I mean, when you're drowning, you're looking for the bottom, right? And maybe this is the bottom, because I'm telling you, I'm not giving up on this Manchester City. Now, they're not going to win the title, most likely. We'll see, of course. Liverpool can only give that away, and maybe teams below. But they will have a say. They will decide who the champions are going to be. As I've told you, I mean, if they get going, and if they go on that mini run, and I think they're fully capable of that, they just need a reason. That's something that Pep Guardiola has not said yet, right? He needs to light the fire from underneath him to say the season is not over. There are cups, there's a Champions League, but if we want to salvage this season, we can do it. And I look at the games, after the West Ham, Brentford, and Ipswich, Mark. There's Chelsea, there's Arsenal. I have to look. Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs, and Forest. Look what Forest are. I am telling you, if they go on that one of those runs, they're going to be there or thereabout close. They're not going to probably win it, but they will decide at the top who's going to be the champion. So I don't know. I have to believe. I didn't see it today, Mark. As I told you, maybe they didn't have to. They saw that second goal. I think it's super important that it was Erling Haaland. We can't forget about that. And I do think that there's life in this Manchester City team.
He kind of got a sighter, didn't he, in the first half? It was a beautiful through ball by Rico Lewis, a cutback from Kevin De Bruyne, and it was on his right foot, Haaland. It was a good save by the Polish goalkeeper. And one thing I kind of noticed today, because I really enjoy watching Erling Haaland. He's a super goal scorer, but when he's not involved, how do you get him more involved when you've got a world-class striker who's seeing none of the ball? And I saw him drop a little bit deeper today. I saw him coming back. I saw him making challenges. That's not really what you want him to do, but for him to then get the second goal, Savinho with the assist in the second half, you and I and LME have spoken about, is it time to maybe take him out the firing line right now? I don't think Pep's ever going to do that, and we saw what happens today. Now can he go on a run? Can he kick on from this?
Sure, he can. I've already mentioned what they need to do in the wide areas. Other than that, I don't know if you saw that dribble he took with left foot, barely missed the post. I mean, that was something where we haven't seen that from him, right? He's got it in him. I mean, he's not a player that's going to create a lot of goals for himself, but you could see that frustration just doing it on his own. So I think he needs to take responsibility, do a little bit of more of that. But look, I mean, how is he? I'm looking at Chris Wood at Nottingham Forest, right? Big man scoring goals. You see today. I mean, for a big man, nice little touch, chipping the goalkeeper. I think he also had an assist, maybe as well.
Did, yeah.
I mean, they're very similar in that way, and that's what momentum does. That's what confidence does. And he certainly at Nottingham Forest doesn't have the players that Erling Haaland has at Manchester City. So I don't worry about him scoring. You just got to give him, put him in a position to do so. And Pep Guardiola is right about that. I've criticized him a lot because I think he can do more. But ultimately, the players around them have to help him out.
Yeah, given the talent Manchester City have, they are fair game for criticism when they don't win games or they play below their best. Today, they won a game. They haven't won for a while. I think the criticism can hang off right now and probably when it's more deserved. Because today, it wasn't. Today was about getting 3 points. They did so. They did it well, but Leicester played their part in what was a decent game to watch. A lot of good football played in that game. So that was the 2:30 kickoff in the UK. Then, half an hour later, the rest of the games took place. Now, our focus is going to be on Spurs against Wolves. And I want to start right at the end, Janusz. I don't normally do this. I'm normally someone that kind of goes chronologically. But there was an isolation shot, an ISO shot of Ange Postecoglou. And his head was down. And he looked like someone had just told him that his favourite cat had gone missing. And I just wondered at that point. It finished Spurs 2, Wolves 2. That's the kind of narrative here. Should have mentioned that at the start. I just wonder if at that stage he realised, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in charge here, because that's the result that will hurt him. Where does his future stand after a 2-2 draw at home to Wolves, Janusz?
Yeah, I mean, they got to be thinking about it. I think he's lovable and to some degree, and I think for us, it's one of those figures that gives you a soundbite before and after the games, and we kind of like people like that. The fans, I think, are starting to be divided about that. There's still many that think he can get it done, but the body language is important, isn't it, Mark? Right? I mean, you can't one day he goes, "Hey, are you not entertained?" and we're never going to change. To see those reactions, because by the way, the reaction of resignation I can understand, but I don't know if I show it, because that's not the first time we've seen it from him, right? No. We've seen him on his knees as well, and of course we understand it. The lack of control, the games are winnable, and today, I mean, the reaction after they conceded early was very good. They went ahead, but again, I said it when it comes to Manchester City, even more so in this game. I never, ever, and I'm sure everybody that was watching this game felt secure with that, because Wolves, I think for long periods of time, looked the better team. And Mark, where they look better. That's something that Spurs absolutely need, is the balance of play. the organization of play. They look much better organized in attack and in defense as well. And look, Spurs will always be dangerous. That will never change. And they had their chances. They scored again, a couple of goals. But you're quite right. I think he's skating on thin ice. He has to be. He better be, because you can't go and say, hey, this is the way it's going to be, and one day we'll get it right. Well, when is that going to be?
Might be too late, and that's the problem for Spurs. I've been impressed by what the new manager has done at Wolves, Vitor Pereira, since coming in. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's an organisation now, and this was different because they'd conceded lots of goals. I think they'd conceded like 40 goals before he came in, and then they had a couple of clean sheets soon after. Now they've conceded 2 today, but I think we saw them taking the lead, but we saw an organisation, and we saw a focal point at the end of the pitch, Matheus Cunha, who's just a fantastic player. But we saw the opening goal in 7 minutes. It was a kind of free kick. Spurs aren't the same with Forster in goals instead of Lloris. They're not the same with Archie Gray and Dragoshin at centre-back instead of Van de Ven and Romero. But they should still be defending set plays better than this, shouldn't they?
Well, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. You know, Wayne gets the ball 18, 20 yards out, right? And he's got the time to do just about anything with that. He finished that absolutely well, but he could have probably taken 2 or 3 more touches before anybody reacted to it. So obviously, even the second one, right? If you look at Dragoshin, who, by the way, I didn't think he was going to play. Yes, they have injuries, but I don't want to talk about it. We're at a stage of the season where everybody has to deal with it, and you have to be ready for it. I don't even know why I'm saying this, because that's normal. Yes, you feel bad for them, but why should I feel bad for Spurs and not anybody else that's struggling right now, either fighting relegation or fighting for Europe as well? So not good enough. When you have a set piece like that, you have time to organize. If it happens in a run of play, sometimes, yes, you know you should do something, but you don't have the time to react. And you're quite right to bring that up, because that's a schoolboy, error in that. And even on that second goal, Dragoshin out of position, and you asking, Gray, a youngster who doesn't even play center back, to slide over, which he probably couldn't do it in time anyway. So yeah, in that. Look, I look at, they score by committee, Spurs do, right? Number of players have decent stats. Even somebody like Madison, I looked it up and it was like 8 goals and 4 assists. And wow. And here I was thinking that he's not playing well, because he really isn't, not consistently. So scoring by committee is good. I think they know that they can get into games, but they don't know how to get results, how to control matches, how to manage matches. And who's in charge of that, by the way? Only one person, and that's Ange Postecoglou.
In the industry we work in, Janusz, we get stats delivered to us all the time. And we do our own prep, and we find stats that way. But this one was one of those that can't be true stats. It was one of those wow stats when I saw it posted. Now, it's from Opta Joe, the Opta stats in the United Kingdom from Premier League. How about this? Spurs have fallen 1-0 behind in 15 Premier League games in 2024. 15 times they've gone 1-0 down. Now, it's how you react to that. And I thought they reacted very well. It was a good corner from Pedro Porro. It was a super header from Bentancur. And then one thing that Spurs do well, certainly not falling 1-0 down is not one of them, they get to the byline pretty well. They utilize the whole of the field. They're one of the better teams for getting it to the byline, cutting it back. And it was Kulusevski that did it this time. And it was that kind of that second man running. It was Brennan Johnson that put them 2-1 up. But there's a kind of microcosm in that whole comment I've just made about Spurs giving themselves too much to do. Now, this time they turned it around to go 2-1 up, but that's not always been the case.
That's leadership, right? If you tell me 15 times, I didn't know actually that stat, but that was even probably with the key players that are missing, right? Mickey van de Ven and Romero, the discipline and all of that. So that's not good enough. Yes, I'm sure Ange makes the point of that, and yes, I'm sure players talk to each other, but it's happening over and over, and somebody has to pay the price for that. And it's not happening. It's not changing. There's also probably lack of leadership on the pitch, because when I look around, again, not being in that dressing room, who are those people? I mean, if it wasn't for Kulusevski, where would they be? I mean, he's a machine, isn't it? I mean, every game. Even if his stats are not always maybe great, but you look at today, yeah, that combination play with Brennan Johnson was tremendous. But, the ability for him to carry the ball into space over long, 30, 40 yards is tremendous. He works. He wants it. He, to me, is the leader. Without him, I'm not sure where they'd be, because their position is, and, I look at the table and I look what's happening and the players they may or may not recover. Everybody knows me that I am a big Ange Postecoglou fan. And I'm starting to wonder a little bit. I haven't given up on him, but, I, for one, can't defend him much longer.
No, it's getting harder. It's. I'm not saying it's impossible, because look, Daniel Levy will have the final say, but it becomes harder and harder when you're 2-1 up, having gone a goal down for the 15th time in the calendar year, to then concede. So after they've gone 2-1 up, Wolves have made changes. A couple of changes at halftime. Cunha's gone off. Strand Larsen has come on, and when Spurs go 2-1 up, you have a choice here. You can kind of, what we have, we hold. Let's go and get a third, make it out of their reach. But Wolves kind of took over a little bit here. And over the whole course of the game, they had 53% of possession. Now, I know that possession is not everything, because you can have it at the back, but it's the quality of possession. But the fact that they've gone to Spurs and had more of the ball and got that equaliser 3 minutes from time, where's the culpability for this equaliser? Is it in the build-up? Is it specifically? Is it the goalkeeper? Or is it just a good finish from Jurgen Strand Larsen?
Well, I mean, it was a good finish. It was near post, but I think from that, that was a lot of power. I'm not going to go to Foster here. Some may. I think it was, I wonder where Dragoshin, I saw him being pulled out. It was at the end of the game. I'd like to look at again. But, I mean, that combination ain't Nuri. I mean, he's been bossing, the left side in many games, but certainly has there as well. So, look, it doesn't, at that stage, that's not necessarily on the manager, right? At that stage, you're winning 2-1. It's late in the game. The players have to know. And instead of having that instinct to maybe, let's go get the third when you have a chance, right, to open up to go again, that's the time where you put the foot on the ball a little bit. I'm not saying that you pass the ball backwards and sideways in the back, because as we know, in today's game, that's very, very dangerous. We see how many goals are being conceded because of high-pressing teams. And Wolves obviously are going to high-press because they need the equalizer. But I just think that in the right areas, maybe that extra circle, maybe two players getting together very close to exchange passes. So look, you do everything, even if it's ugly. And I think that in today's game, sometimes players don't want to do it. I don't understand why Spurs have done it. They've done it over and over and over again. This is not a team that's lacking goals. The biggest strugglers are usually the teams that, okay, maybe they defend well, but even if they defend well and they concede, they have no way of scoring. This is not Spurs, so they have to trust each other, saying, yes, there are goals in us. Let's make sure we take care of the back. And for the life of me, I don't understand why Spurs are looking like this and Ange is doing that, because this team could be and should be much, much better.